Hello, church. Pastor Jack here, and welcome to my study. This is First Things First with Pastor Jack. I hope you are enjoying the series that we're doing now on the history of the New Testament. This is episode 3. In the last episode, we talked about variants and what that means, and we talked about the 500,000. 200,000, and that's looking at all 5,400 texts that we have. And I explained to you that that gets way out of proportion, and really that's not anything we should worry about. But we did talk about the Textus Receptus and the critical text, the two main documents that most of our English versions are made off of. The older one is the TR, and the King James Version and some other well-known versions come out of that. And CET, the critical text, it is the version that most of our modern translations, ESV, NET, every one of the modern translations basically come out of that. And today we're going to talk about the differences in those two Greek versions, and exactly what is the difference. And there is a website, and I'm trying to look at it here. It's called King James Version Parallel Bible. You can just put in KJV Parallel Bible, and it will take you to a website. It's got .org instead of .com when you're looking for it. And this is a website that some Bible scholars put together. And basically, it shows the Textus Receptus on one side and the critical text on the other, and they show you any differences in those texts. And this is really a good source to understand variants and to see exactly what they call variants. And as we look at it, it gets very easy to see that most of them are very, very insignificant. In the next episode, we'll talk about a couple of big variants. They don't really affect our doctrine. They don't affect theology hardly at all. But they are things you need to be aware of because skeptics are going to bring those up sometimes. But I did a little study here, and I've got a little some notes here I'm going to talk about. Just going through the book of Romans. When you go to this website, you feel free if you want to go through and count exactly how many variants they are between the Textus Receptus and the critical text. Feel free and put the comment in. I'm not going to waste my time doing that because they're so insignificant that it's really not a number that anybody needs to know. But I did go through the book of Romans. Romans is probably one of the most theological books in the New Testament. And so if we're looking at what affects theology, well, let's look at Romans. And I did go through the book of Romans, and there are a total of 82 variants in the book of Romans between the TR and the CT. 82. I chose the 9th chapter. And because the 9th chapter of Romans, you've heard me talk about it a lot, it is for Reformed theologians. It's if you're a part of Reformed theology, it's a very important chapter. So I want you to know the differences in the 9th chapter. And I'm going to go through these. There's 5 of them. There's 5 variants in the 9th chapter. And I'm going to go through them and just talk about what they are. The first 10 verses doesn't have a variant in it. But the 11th verse in the CT, it uses the word evil in the middle of the 11th verse. And here it's talking about the two babies. It says, for children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil. And it goes on to finish the verse. In the TR, it says good or bad. So the TR has the word bad. The Textus Receptus has the word evil. That's not theologically earth-shattering, is it? In the 28th verse, there is a bigger variant, but in the 28th verse, For the TR, it says, "For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because a short work will the Lord make upon the earth." In the 28th verse, it says, "For he will finish the work and the Lord will cut it short upon the earth." Now, there's a few more words, and that's the way it's always going to be in the Textus Receptus. There's going to be a few more words than there are in the critical text. The reason for that is, remember, the Textus Receptus are newer copies. So in other words, they went through more copies from the original to get down to the 1600, the ones that was found by 1600 that the Textus Receptus use. The critical texts are the older ones. There's fewer of them, but they're older. And so somewhere along the line, a scribe felt like they needed to add a word or change a word in order to make it more readable. And they felt like they were doing the right thing, okay? And that's what happened here in this verse. It's pretty easy to see. There's more words in the TR than there are in the older version, the CT. So it, some scribe felt like it needed to add a few words here. It says the same thing. It doesn't affect our theology at all. The next one is in verse 31. In verse 31, a scribe added "of righteousness" to the end of the TR, and those words are not in the CR. Let's read the verse. "But Israel, which followed after the law of righteousness, hath not obtained the law of righteousness." And in the TR it says, "But Israel, which followed after the law of righteousness, have not obtained the law." It left the word "of righteousness." Clearly, a scribe felt like he needed to add those words to that to make it more understandable. The very next one is in the 32nd verse, and it says in the TR, "Wherefore, because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law, for they stumbled at the stumbling block." In the critical text, it says, "Wherefore, because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by works, they stumbled at the stumbling block." So there was 4 extra words added into the Textus Receptus because probably some scribe felt like they needed to be there. And then the last verse, verse 33, the word "whoever" is used in the Textus Receptus, and the word "who" is used in the critical text. They don't skip anything calling it a variance. The word "whoever" or the word "who." And again, I have went back into Greek on this, and the word "who" is correct. So for whatever reason, they use the word "whoever" in the critical text. Is there anything that changes my doctrine at all? And this is probably the biggest verse in the Bible for the theology that I believe, and there's nothing there. So our theology is not touched by any of these variants, not at all. You can go through all of them. You can go through all the variants. I have. And you're not going to find anything earth-shattering. Nothing that's going to change. Now, there are some, in the next video I'll talk about, there are some verses that multiple verses was left out of. When you look at the old text, the critical text, those verses are not there. When you look at the Textus Receptus, those verses are there. So when you look at the King James Version, it has those verses in it. When you look at the critical text, which most of your modern translations, they put a note there saying in the oldest copies, these verses were not there. And they went ahead then and put the verses because they could look at the Textus Receptus too when they're using the critical text for their main document that they are translating. And they went ahead and put the verses there, but they had a footnote saying these are not in the oldest copies. And I've had ESV only people come to me and said, look what your translation does. It's taking words out of. I said, well, no, they're there. They're there. They just tell you that they wasn't in the oldest versions, and they act like that's some kind of, you know, some kind of conspiracy theory or something. You know, that they're trying to conspire to take the Bible away. No, no. The fact is, in the oldest copies, those words were not there. Why did they get added? Well, we'll talk about that in the next video. God bless you. Keep the first things first. And I'll see you on the next video.